All right, so, hey guys in the back, woo! Pay attention! You know what's interesting about being in a room full of writers is that if you misbehave, you might show up in their book. And not a flattering portrait either. Names may not be withheld. So just keep that in mind, right? So, first of all, I want to say I'm so honored and so proud and moved to be here, and thank you both Jerome and Wendell and Ajay for asking me to be here, because I have really seen this incredible evolution of Wendell's flowering and talents, you know. What I want to say is that Wendell and I have been dear friends for more than 20 years, and I'm proud of that, even though it certainly dates me. But what's interesting about our friendship is that though it was the world of fashion and entertainment that initially brought us together, I think it was actually both of our mutual love for words.
Yes, so it's my very dear friend Wendell Roderick's his book launch. It's called Posque. Well, it's Posquem, but Posque is the pronunciation. And it's his third book. It's beautifully written. It's about a very dark secret, which is in Goan culture, but he tells the story in a very uplifting way. So I'm very proud of him for shining the light on this part of Goan history, but he's mixing in recipes and he's giving a real voice and a face to people who have gone through injustice in Goa, and hopefully these stories will prevent any more injustice from happening.
Okay, what is the meaning of a Posquem?
Posquem, you should actually ask Wendell, but basically Posquem is a child who would be adopted into a wealthy family and basically treated as a servant, even though they would take the family's name. So you could say that's a child who's born out of wedlock or out of marriage, and then were adopted by wealthy families, but they were never treated well.
Ma'am, audience have appreciated your role in Dobara, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, when I wrote the book, the first thing that I thought was I had to lighten the story because it was so dark. And I wrote as a byline Goans in the shadows, because they were in reality kept like that in the shadows. They didn't come out into the halls and sit down. They didn't sit down on the dining table. They hid in the kitchen. So I don't describe them very much in the book. Another thing I didn't do was to describe too much about the villages of Goa or the cities like Lyon or Bombay or Pune, because I left those also hazy. I wanted them to be in the foreground, and I felt it would only be Mario Miranda's cartoons or illustrations in this case that could illustrate the backdrop or the setting of the book, if you want to say, because I did not go into those areas. I did not talk about the sweating crowds that go to Mapsa in a full bus. I left him to illustrate that. And the same thing I did with Paris and with Lyon. I just left it all kind of very hazy. So but I kept the narrative racing and running with emotion. When you go from page 1 to 10, it goes through like happiness and pain and then suddenly despair and misery, and that's how the book ran. So Mario's page dividers, chapter dividers, formed a good foil as a background for the narrative that went through it.